Uh, Thank you, Vikas. First of all, thank you, everyone. This is so encouraging to see on a Thursday morning 150 C-level executives, CISOs of our large enterprises joining this webinar. Uh, Thank you, Vikas, for the introduction. I will not take much time because I understand you all are very tech savvy and you would like to hear from Ureen. You would like to see what Himanshu has to show. So I'll take a couple of minutes to set the context, what we are going to discuss today. So it's a very simple scenario that I want to share with you guys. What you guys are users of cloud in any form or shape. So what do you want your cloud security to be? Whether it should be a static one, taking snapshots at every periodic interval, or do you, when your cloud is moving into a AI and a real time, where the cloud is changing every moment, do you want your cloud security also to be AI driven and very real time? With that, let me quickly introduce you to who we are and what we do. We are not someone new who's experimenting with cloud. Our founders, who had their first startup, which was all about understanding what cloud is, how cloud behaves, like what are the challenges that are faced by our customers when it comes to the public cloud environment. They had a, no, they had a company, and I'm very sure most of you will be aware about it, called Spot.io, which was all about providing you visibility into cloud optimization. So we are nowhere experimenting with the cloud. We really know what challenges our customers face. The second testimony to any product, I believe, and the biggest one is who are using our solution. Uh, Fortune 500, Fortune 50, the top very security mature companies use Upwind as their preferred choice for cloud security platform. And finally, it's very important to know how good financially we are, how good our books are. So we have been funded and backed by the top three venture capitalist firms who has shown their interest in Upwind. We have raised close to 430 million, which takes our valuation to close to 2 billion. And this has happened in just 2 years of time frame. So Upwind is a 6-year-old company. The first 4 years were in the stealth mode, and for last 2 years, we have started our go-to-market. What we try to do as a part of overall uh, Upwind journey, we are very close to our customers, and what we try to do is try to map our journey with our customer's journey. I understand every customer likes to take a small step when it comes to their cloud security. So we also start the same way. We start with the CSPM, the agentless approach, but then we understand agentless CSPM can only tell you the posture of your existing infrastructure. We move forward. We include runtime capabilities. So with our runtime sensor, we provide you an overall context of how your containers and your runtime security is behaving. With that, we take the third step forward and we understand not only the infrastructure, but the application context is also very important when it comes to your cloud security. So there is an API context, there's an application context that we bring into the picture. With DPDP coming into effect in Indian market, data security becomes one of the key challenge for all you see CISOs and security practitioner. So we try to cover the data security part also. And the latest buzzword, which is in every boardroom today, how we are managing the AI security. So as a final step, we bring in the AI security part also as an overall bundle of the cloud security what that Upland provides to our customers. So where do we stand in terms of the overall uh, customer life cycle when it comes to their software development life cycle? So we start on the extreme left where we have your ISC security, your supply chain and SBOM, which is again a very big requirement for any regulated market. When you come to the runtime, we look at how your entire CSPM is working, how your DSPM, your entitlements, which identities are active, which workloads are talking to other workloads. So we try to provide you an overall visibility into your infrastructure, what vulnerabilities are present, how your container and Kubernetes security is behaving. And finally, we just don't leave it over there. We also provide you a protection on your infrastructure side, whether it's your cloud detection and response capabilities. We manage the entire attack surface management for you. Your infrastructure talks to multiple APIs. So how we manage and make sure that the entire infrastructure is secured from layer 3 to layer 7, hence providing you a visibility into API security as well. What does this provide you in turn? So basically, with the use of such features that we are providing, it reduces the noise. So our first and most important uh, differentiator that we bring to the table is how can I prioritize things for you which matter, not by just telling you what could be risky, but actually telling you what is exploitable and what could harm your organization. Second part, we provide you bigger visibility into your overall infrastructure. It's a very common thing, and we all understand you cannot protect what you can't see. So visibility becomes the most important part. And third, just telling you that about new thousand alerts and not telling you what is the context around those is again not going to help you. It's just going to burden you with more newer alerts. So we try to provide you a lot of context, create those do a correlation among the alerts and the detection, and try to stitch a story around that so that you don't have to look at each and every alert. You can just look at those stories and understand how particular alerts are being correlated with each other. So where do we operate? I'm pretty sure you will be aware about these tools. So with the use of Upwind, you can consolidate all these tools and provide you a single product which can work across your environment, whether it's your CSPM, whether it's your API security, container security, vulnerability management, workload protection. And for years, security has been always, or the CISO's role has been always seen as the cost saving one. And what's better than having a consolidated tool which can remove, first of all, 5 or 6 agents from your environment with a single eBPF sensor, which is a very lightweight sensor, doesn't take much of overheads on your environment, and also save a lot of cost with you. Well, with that, I would like to invite our co-founder and VP of Product, Ureen, for a quick fireside chat.
Hello everyone, Shuprabhat, मेरा नाम Yarin, co-founder, VP product here at Upwind. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, it's a very interesting time because I'm here at RSA at San Francisco, the biggest cybersecurity conference in the world. And even though it's a very late night here, I'm speaking to you and very excited to be here and present up with you. So thank you so much for the time. Thank you all for coming, and I hope that it will be a very interesting session for all of you.
Thank you, Reen, for taking out time. Now you have been associated with Spot, and you are the co-founder at Upwind. Uh, Let me start with getting an understanding for you that as organization accelerate to multi-cloud adoption, there's a blind spot that CISOs consistently underestimate, or which is one of the blind spot that they miss all the time.
That's actually a very interesting topic that you're mentioning, Timar, because when we're talking about blind spots, we need to first think about how cloud security evolved in the last years. And if you think about mainly where the CNAP or the CSPM concept got into place, it was maybe 2018, 2019, 2020, where the major CSPM players got into play. And what most of the enterprise customers and enterprise organizations were leaning towards is to deploy the CSPM solutions. The CSPM for everyone, CSPM is a cloud security posture management. It's pretty much a solution that allows you to deploy with agentless scanning a solution in your cloud environment. It will run agentless scanning, which means that once in 24 hours, they will take a snapshot of your environment. They will tell you what are all the misconfigurations that you have, all the secrets that you have, all the malwares that you have, and pretty much giving you kind of a snapshot or think about taking a picture of your environment once in 24 hours. And based on that, they will be able to tell you what is the state of the art of your current environment. This was great for 2020. But now we're talking about 2026. In 2026, most of the applications that are being shipped to the cloud are AI applications or applications that have much more complexity than the application that we used to deploy many years ago, which means that if you want to secure these complex application, if you want to secure this Kubernetes environment, if you want to secure these microservices, the containers, there has to be a different way. And the blind spot that we're seeing that a lot of these CISOs that you've mentioned, Simar, are having right now are these blind spots of you're getting the scans only once in a 24 hours and you're not getting the context of what's actually happening in your workloads, in your containers, in your virtual machines, in your serverless workloads. And this is the biggest blind spot because having this context of what's running, having this context of what are the vulnerabilities that I have versus what are the vulnerabilities that are being in use, this is what makes all of the organizations that we're working with right now getting this level of visibility of where they need to actually get to. And what we have done here at Upwind is that we've built this runtime first approach that first we scan your environment from the inside out, and after we have scanned your environment from the inside out with our runtime sensor, we will be able to correlate that and associate that with the misconfiguration, with the static scanning, with all the identity context, with all the vulnerability context. But if you don't have this context of what's happening in a real time inside your workload, you will never be able to tell what are the actual risks. And this is the biggest blind spots that we're seeing with CISOs and security executives and most of the organizations that are working it right now. And I'll explain and elaborate on that a lot more along the webinar.
Thank you, Irene, for that. You touched upon the visibility part a bit, and I'm pretty sure we have close to 200 odd people in this webinar right now. But if I do a poll, everybody will claim that they have visibility across environment. And even I would like to believe if I'm a C-level executive, but yet breaches continue. Where does this visibility break down that hackers are able to exploit that and get into the systems?
I'll give you a scenario, and let's take the most modern scenario, and then we can take it to an even more less modern scenario. Um, you're building, most of the organizations they want to build LLMs, they want to build MCPs, they want to get to AI development. And let's say that you're building right now an LLM based application. So you're exposing kind of a server to your customers. And with the servers, your customers are able to send pretty much prompts to your applications. And with these prompts, you're expected to provide security to what the customers are asking to. So think about if you're providing your customers some sort of a chat GPT to do some actions on your web applications. Think about that. Do you have any way with agentless scanning, with snapshot scanning, to be able to identify the real risks of your LLM models, of your AI models? The answer will be absolutely no. And the reason why it's absolutely no, because we're no longer talking about, if you think about what happened throughout the previous years, we were used to build rules and policies to detect threats. What does it mean? It means that if I wanted to detect a malicious threat, I had to integrate with a signature database that has a lot of signatures such as MD5s and SHA 256 and has some rule-based engine that looks for if the process has this name and if the process has these arguments and if the process has this execution, then you will get the alert. But right now we're talking about a whole of a lot different attack patterns where the attacker is actually typing natural language to your applications. The attacker is typing some things that no rule in the world will be able to detect it, because think about if you will be able to build some rule to detect, for example, some LLM or some prompt or some human language that is trying to get into your applications. I can take the same prompt that you have created a rule based on and translate it to a different language, and your server will be able to process it in the same way that will be able to exploit your application. So it's much harder to trace these kind of web applications that we're working on right now in 2026 than what we used to think that we used to do in 2020, where rule-based mechanism was the number one thing to go to. And the approach that we took at Upwind from the very first moment was what we call baseline-based approach. And by saying a baseline-based approach, I'm saying that whenever you get Upwind deployed in your infrastructure, and as I said, having Upwind deployed is first, getting this visibility of what's running, and after that, getting the visibility from the real-time perspective, and not only the agentless, which we already provide, but getting this understanding of what processes are running, and for every process that is running, what network it generates. For every process that generates network, which files in the file system it reads, writes, executes, deletes. So all the relationship between the files in the file system. And for every process that is running in your Windows and Linux servers, which API calls it generates to the cloud. Because we also need to monitor that. If you have a process in your environment and the process generates API traffic to the cloud and makes some API calls to Amazon, GCP, Oracle, Azure, and whatever, we need to also get to a level where we detect that, we monitor that. And what we do here at Upwind is that instead of building only rules to detect this, we build these baselines. And it's not only what I think that we should do at Upwind, it's what I think that we should do as as an industry, as an economy, as a cybersecurity practitioners, as a cybersecurity executives. We should think about the next generation of attacks where rule-based mechanism would not last anymore. And we'll talk about it more, but as a defenders, and for example, I'm here in Upwind Security, I'm a defender. I need to defend my customers from the next generation of attacks. So I'm using and leveraging AI to actually do that. But I'm a defender and using AI. Attackers are also using AI. So attackers are way smarter than they used to be before. Because if I'm an attacker and I have the most malicious malware in the world, and as a defender, the defender has the signatures to detect it. As an attacker, I can just go to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI application out there in the world and tell this AI application, hey, dear AI, take this malicious signature, make it look legitimate signature, call this process in a whole different name, and change some code in the binary, but make it behave in the same way. I promise you that if you do this practice, you would not get any rejection from your AI application. And the attackers are doing it. And this is pretty much the trend that we're seeing with attackers right now in 2026, where attackers are no longer using these known attacks, known signatures, known malwares. And this is why it makes it so much harder for us and also for all the practitioners out there in the world. And I know that there's a lot of security engineers, security leaders out here in the forum to actually defend from these evolving attacks. And I would say that for every security practitioner and executives out here, always think about if you get this scanning of your environment, how well you know your environment, how well you know what's running in your environment, how well you know what's good looks like in your environment. And only if you know what good looks like in your environment, then you will be able to tell what deviation looks like, what the bad looks like. And I broke it down to some very practical and low-level examples, such as process execution and cloud activity logs and network and file integrity monitoring. But you can take it to pretty much anywhere in the cloud. You can take it to vulnerability management. You can take it to identity management. For example, think about a very simple scenario. You typically log in from India, right? You log into your AWS account, you log in every day from India, and suddenly, one day, in the middle of the night, you're logging in from a very remote country than you used to log before. And you're doing an action such as deleting an S3 bucket or deleting a BigQuery table, but we never did this action before. And we suddenly see a deviation between the movement that you as an IAM user or a machine, could be an instance, it could be a container, it could be a serverless workload, doing abnormally. then no security tool in the world will be able to detect it, because if I'm just looking at S3 bucket delete action, there could be a lot of these activities. It's actually something that could be legitimate in some organizations. But because we're seeing that this is an action that was never done before, and because we're seeing that this is an action that was never done before for you, and you never logged in before from this location that you've just logged in, this is where we do this 1+1 and give you the alert and give you the deviation. So protecting right now in this AI era, in this dynamic era, is much more sophisticated and complex than we used to do before.
Great, great. Uh, for years, we have been talking about shifting security to the left, shift the security to the build phase. But what I hear when you're saying when you're talking is we need to focus equally on the real time runtime aspect. But still, what is when it comes to runtime? What are organizations still getting wrong? Why the runtime becomes so critical? Why is it the new battleground right now? If you can just share your views on that.
I think you pretty much touched it very well, because there are some organizations that they say only shift left, which is only pipeline scanning, only cloud, agentless scanning, misconfiguration scanning. And there are some organizations that say only shift right, only scan at runtime, only deploy sensors, only look for the malicious threats. But the problem is that if you do only shift right, you're missing what's left. And if you're doing only shift left, you're missing what's on the right side. So you can call it, I call it something like a shift up. And shift up means shift upwind. But this is something that, this is not the concept that like an industry concept. So don't count me on this one. But the shift up concept means that you don't need to do only this or only that. You need to do both, but you need to have shift left and shift right contextualized at the same place. Let me give you a practical example. So with Upwind and what we believe that we should do, we're scanning vulnerabilities in real time. And what does it mean to scan vulnerabilities? Scan vulnerabilities means that you can take an agentless snapshot of a virtual machine, of a container, register scanning, and then based on that, do a snapshot scanning, tell you what are all the vulnerabilities that you have on a given virtual machine, on a given container. And there you will see all the criticals, the low, the medium, the highs, info, and the other CVE that you have in your environment. The problem is that if you do it only on the shift left, you only get the context of what's critical based on the critical scoring that it gets. So every critical that you get, it's critical on the paper. It doesn't mean that it's critical for your organization. And what does it mean that it's not critical for your organization? It means that you may not use the vulnerable package in the vulnerable way, or you may use the package in the vulnerable way, but the application is not exposed to the internet in a way that allows some attacker to actually get in. And so this is what we do here at Upwind. We still provide here all the concepts and all the capabilities to shift left and run the pipeline scanning, and to have all the SAST capabilities, and to have all the SEA scanning and DAST and secret scanning and malware scanning inside the pipeline before the code is getting shipped. But what we know about this code that is about to get shipped is that we know all the context from the right side, from the shift right, which is for every application, for every container or every code repository that you have, we know if this code repository is deployed on an application that is exposed to the internet. Because we're living inside your application in real time, so we can tell you if the application is exposed to the internet or not. And because of our capabilities to tell you if the vulnerable package is loaded to the memory and the vulnerable function is being in use in real time, then we can tell you if the code that the developer that is committing a vulnerable code right now is about to deploy will be something that attackers will be actually able to exploit. And so if you only do shift right, and if you only do shift left, you will miss. It's not that you have a magic agent that will fix it all. You need to think about an approach that will mix these two together. Well, even if it's not using Upwind, and we're talking about a high level and industry concept for you all. But mixing this context together is what you should aim for in 2026. Because attackers, as I said, are way more sophisticated. Attackers with AI created much more critical tools, much more powerful tools to be able to scan every environment that you have. If you spin up a workload right now and you deploy an application that is exposed to the internet and has exploitable function in use and has a critical CVE, attackers will be able to find it in minutes because the scanners that are out there by attackers right now are much more powerful than they used to do before, mainly because attackers are building the attack applications also with AI. So this is a kind of a different era. And the same example, CMAR, that we've just spoke about from a vulnerability management perspective, you can take to any concept of shift left. You can take it to identity security, where instead of just telling you what are the privileged IAM roles or the privileged policies that you have in your environment, we'll tell you what are the privileged IAM roles, but we'll tell you how can you right size the permissions of these IAM roles based on their actual usage in real time. So it doesn't mean that if you have some user with some high privileges, you have to completely shut this user down. But it means that if you have this user and we can continuously monitor what this user does, that's where we'll be able to provide you much more insightful and powerful findings into the shift left. So think about any concept that you can take from the shift left with runtime context. You'll be able to first reduce the amount of criticals and the amount of false positives, but second, focus every organization on what are the most critical issues in their environment.
Thank you, Rinpo. So if I summarize your point, so AI is now enabling our CISOs as the biggest defender and a force multiplier against the hackers who are using AI as a tool to attack their environment. So it's actually an equalizer and also an amplifier for our C-level executive. Um, I just want your views on so all of our customers use SOC in some or the other way. Either it's their own SOC or they are using SOC as managed service from any of their partners. How does Upwind AI genuinely is reducing response time and noise, or are we still saying that these are good on PPTs and not in reality?
That's actually a great one. And the good thing about it is that I can always open my screen and show you some nice stuff about the platform. And I think that one of the most interesting thing about the way that we work here at Upwind is that we have broke down the platform into three main concepts that I'll touch upon very quickly, and we can always expand on them. But we have this concept of events, detections, and stories. And think about events as you want to get these logs about some privileged actions or actions that are violating some security concerns and some security rules, but they're not the ones that should wake you up in the middle of the night as an incident. So this is what we call an events. And detections would be the actions that we're seeing that are violating either the baseline that we have established for your environment, or they are violating a known rule, such as a malware that is running, a straightforward malware with a known hash, a known malicious hash that has been detected. And that's where we can provide you a lot of detections around if you have any container, for example, that is running a known malicious network scanning tool. And then we pretty much give you all the context around what is the malicious tool that we saw. In this example, you can see that we have an nmap that is running. You can see the entire exposure that we saw, which means that how the attacker was actually able to get in. So you can see the live traffic that is coming in from the attacker. You can see the entire network configuration, like what was the AWS route table and the access list and the security group and the load balancer and the service that the attacker went through to actually get into your environment and exploit your application. By the way, if Upwind detects any suspicious event or any lateral movement inside your environment, you can also respond to these events. So CMAR as a SOC team, like you said, having this capability to respond and terminate the malicious processes in real time in the malicious network, this is something very essential. And with Upwind, we provide obviously the capability to do that. But the most important thing is that the SOC teams, they have to handle with thousands of events, thousands of processes, thousands of logs. And the number one problem that we're seeing with the SOC teams is that they have a hard time stitching the different events together and correlating between them into a one single view that will tell them what has been the sequence of event, and to be able to understand all the processes, all the activities, all the events that have been involved, and all the potential resources that have been attacked. And this is what we're doing here at Upwind. In Upwind, you will be able to get the entire sequence of events, all the different detections and events that we've seen as part of the incidents with a timeline, one by one. And if there has been a user that was involved as part of the attack, you will be able to see this user. Obviously, you can see here it's me, a malicious threat actor in this example, but we'll be able to trace it down into that level. We can see the exact access key, the exact IP, where the user was actually coming from, and to be able to show you the entire sequence of events of how that attacker was able to get in, what has been all the sequence of event that attacker was running, and put this in front of you in a very natural language that will enable any SOC team with getting this immediate understanding of what is the incident, obviously correlated with the MITRE framework and the OWASP top 10 if relevant, and then to provide you on top of the prevention plan a tailored remediation plan that tells every SOC team what exactly they need to do. And you, as a SOC team, you can just copy and paste it to be fully protected. And if there has been multiple activities and multiple resources that have been involved as part of the attack, you'll be able to get that as well. And so this is what we're seeing from the trends of the SOC team. And like I said, the context is what makes everything different.
Thank you, Rin, for that. One last question from my side, and I think I can tag it as the elephant in the room, which is the boardroom pressure. Now, in any of the customers, there's a board team, there's a management executive who attend these management seminars or analyst seminars, and then they come back with the buzzwords like AI and other stuff. And then the pressure is on our CISOs to just get AI rolling. They do not care about what risk AI brings in, how is the organization resilient towards those risks, and the governance. Indian market is very highly driven by compliances and the regulators. So how can we help our customers handle this boardroom pressure by keeping the cloud risk, the resilience, and the AI governance in place?
That's a very interesting one that we're seeing all the time around how can the CISO, the security teams, the security executives, and the practitioner explain to the upper management on why there need to be a change, and why right now is the timing to change the approach of having only an agentless scanning, or not even having this runtime visibility at all, to actually having this runtime visibility. And I think that it always gets back into the nature of where we are right now. As a defenders and as a companies, let's even put it aside. As the companies are evolving and developers are writing their code with AI, there has been much more holes and much more attack path for attackers to actually come in. And if you think about what attackers are doing, attackers are also using AI, so they have much more tools, they have much more power, they have much more, I would say, resourcefulness to be able to attack customers' environments and to be able to attack enterprise environments. And so both sides at this point, you as a company, you as a, every practitioner that is here right now, your company evolves and develops much more code with AI and exposes AI to your customers. And even if you think about the nature of the applications, where Most of the organizations are shifting to the cloud. Most of the organizations are building applications with Kubernetes, with containers, and it's not what it used to be before. And attackers are on the same path. They're building their attack tools with AI. They're attacking your environment in a ways that are not violating any rule or any signature, because your current attack techniques and defense techniques and mechanisms are rule-based and signature-based. And so you build more with AI, you get more modern, you get more complex environment with Kubernetes and containers. Attackers are getting more sophisticated. Attackers are deploying more attack tools with AI. And now you're still being protected with the same once in a 24-hour scanning that you used to do 6 years ago. And the best test that I'll tell everyone to do is take one of your applications or just deploy some vulnerable application in your environment. Deploy some malicious tool in your environment and see if you'll actually be able to get any alert on that in real time and how much time it takes to get there. And if you want to, we're able to provide you with some open source projects that we have developed that you can actually test it against your environment. And we can give you like 50 different attack scenarios that you can test. And you'll be able to see that what is the gaps on how many attack scenarios have been detected and how many attack scenarios are actually not being detected. Once you understand this, explaining it to the board, explaining it to the upper management becomes much easier because the attack surface has changed. And more than everything, Simar, I think that one of the most interesting concepts around here is the runtime context is not only for threat detection. The runtime context is for vulnerability management, so you will get much less vulnerabilities because of this context. It's for identity security, so you get much less IAM findings than you used to get before. And it's for CSPM, because if we're able to give you this runtime context into the CSPM findings, such as a bucket that is exposed or EC2 instance that is exposed, but there is no listener inside, you'll be able to be in a point where you will save much more time for your developers, you will save much more time for your security teams, and you'll be able to focus on how you can defend from the next generation of attacks. So it's about time consolidation, tool consolidation, and obviously detecting the next generation of attacks.
Thank you, Rain. That was very insightful and helpful. I see a lot of questions in the chat, and I understand we have a dedicated time for Q&A. Thank you. Thank you so much for enlightening us.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Simar. And I just want to also say thank you for everyone. Upwind is now growing very big with the lead of Simar, our country manager in the Indian market. And I will come to visit you all. I love India. I've been in India so many times in my life. And like I always like to say, with Upwind, you will get everything. Sab kuch milega. And thank you so much for the time.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you so
Rain.
much, Yurin. If I can just quickly hop on here. Hi, everyone. My name is Harris. I'm the head of marketing for APJ at Upwind. Yurin pointed out that we're growing fast, we're growing big, especially under the leadership of Simar. I just want to quickly turn just a couple of questions. In fact, just around market expansion, right? We are new in the market. So, Simar, I guess, if you look at India's today's digital economy today, we're growing rapidly. Cloud adoption is fast, accelerating. What makes it a strategic priority for Upwind at this moment? And of course, I think looking at it as well, what are the key sort of distinct cybersecurity challenges that Indian enterprises are facing today, compared to the rest of the markets?
Yep. So thanks, Harris, for that. So I'll answer that question in two parts. First is why India now. Three major points for that. I think firstly, our customers are very demanding. So if you might have B2B business or B2C business, people want very fast service. They are not ready to wait even for minutes. There was a study which was conducted that the new generation people, if they're not getting serviced in less than 2 minutes, they change the platform. So if I take an example, let's say a very simple example is OTT channels which are broadcasting various series or movies. So if a person is not getting speed in less than 2 minutes, they will move from one OTT platform to other. And that's not just restricted to OTT platforms. That goes to your travel, e-commerce, payment gateways, everything. Which means our organizations have to adopt microservices. There has to be a lesser downtime. There has to be a faster go-to-market. With speed come challenges, and that's where Upwind plays a very important role in addressing these challenges around cloud security without hampering the speed of innovation. So our customers can focus on innovation, whereas we focus on securing their infrastructure. Second point, Indian market has been growing tremendously and under the leadership of our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and we aim to become the third largest economy by 2030. And also, when I look at the cloud market, it has been growing. By 2030, we will be almost like $76 billion cloud market, which is growing at a rate of 20 to 26% every year. So, with that kind of growth in the cloud market, the investment coming from the likes of AWS, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, the infrastructure where they're heavily investing in, it makes a lot of sense for us at Upwind to make sure that these infrastructures are protected and are secured for our customer. And finally, you name any global organization, whether it's American Express, Barclays, where is the talent hub? The entire talent hub who is managing these larger infrastructures are either in Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, Mysore, you name it. The people who are working on this are based in India. So yes, I understand the CXO team might be in offshore location, but the people who are going to use it, people who are going to spend their day-to-day lives around it, are based in India. So, with looking at that talent hub in India, I think it makes a lot of sense for Upwind to invest now in Indian market, and that's where we have started. In a span of less than 3 months, we have invested in the sales team, sales operations, engineering teams based out of Pune and Hyderabad. So we have invested a lot, and just from the point of view of the growth that we see as a part of Indian market. Your second question was around the challenges that our CISOs face. I think the biggest challenge that comes with any SaaS provider is the data localization. We as a SaaS solution provider, we should respect a fact that Indian market is very, very highly governed by the regulators. You name any market, you name any industry, they are regulated. RBI is regulating banking. IRDA is for insurance. TRI is for telecom. And on top of that, if you're a public company or a private company, you have SEBI who's breathing down your neck all the time. You have NPCIs of the world looking into each and every transaction that you are making. So, with that, the very important fact is that we understand that we need to reduce the burden of our CISOs when it comes to data localization and compliance, because all these agencies will provide them a guideline that you have to follow the data protection rules under these guidelines. But the end responsibility is of the CISOs who are doing that. So we should be supporting them in making sure the data is localized, the data is protected. Yeah.
Simar, we have last 2 minutes left.
Okay. Okay.
2 minutes. Okay. So maybe perhaps if I can just ask one more question very quickly. In a relationship-driven market like India, what does it take for a cybersecurity company like us to really establish that credibility with the CXOs across India?
So I think few points. First of all, Indian market is very technology driven. The people here are very technical. So the proof remains is in the technology. So showcasing how the technology best supports them. how the technology has been helping other customers. That's a very critical point. Second, I think the more important point is from from a from a I would say from a licensing perspective or from a go-to-market perspective. I believe we should not look at our customers like transactions or deals or numbers. So that I was working on my slide where I showed the journey of any customer. So as an vendor, I should not be going and asking money at every step, whereas customer should be free to follow his own journey without having a thought in the back of his mind that, oh, if I move from CSPM to CNAP to API security, Upwind is going to come and ask me for money. That should be one thing that will help us build trust in an Indian market. We should just focus on giving the best of the technology. We should consider our customers as partners. That will help us build good trust among our customers. And finally, if I do a poll with our customers right now about how many agents do they have security related to security tools running on their system, I think the answer will be more than 20 plus agents, and that's a responsibility on people like us to shrink these agents, to reduce the footprint of these agents on their infrastructure, so that the overheads that they are doing, the additional compute that they need just for these agents is not there, which will help them in other aspects. So I think the ownership relies on us, and that's where I feel Upwind has taken an amazing step in using an eBPF sensor. I'll repeat, it's a sensor and not an agent, which doesn't consume a lot of compute from the infrastructure point of view. So I think these couple of points help us to build trust among our customers, Harris.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Simar. Vikas, just before I hand back to you, I just want to say that the agenda should include Himanshu to be showcasing the platform. But for any of you guys on the webinar who are interested, in seeing Upwind in action, it's such a beautiful and great platform. I can tell you that, not being biased. Please do contact one of us, Simar, the local team, Himanshu, and the other teams as well. Vikas, over to you.